good? Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. Good morning. Woo! I didn't hear you. Good morning. All right. Thank you. My name is Kristen Riley. I am the director of the Choose Clean Water Coalition, and I want to officially welcome everyone to the 2024 Choose Clean Water Conference. Thank you to everyone who has made the trip to be here today, especially our friends from the outer reaches of the watershed. I see you, New York, West Virginia. There's my New York folks. So thank you so much for coming. This is a record-breaking year for the coalition in so many ways. For the first time in our history, we have sold out this conference, and we have 310 people that are registered to be here over the next 3 days. This is amazing. Yeah. This conference is what I look forward to the most every year. It inspires me. It reminds me of the incredible people I have the honor of calling colleagues and friends, of why I wake up every morning to do this good work, and it is a celebration of all we have accomplished together. And this year is truly a celebration as we celebrate the coalition's 15th anniversary. It's a big deal. Let's give it 15 minutes. Yeah, clap for 15 years. So 15 years ago, this coalition was started by a small group of Bay leaders who believed in the power of collaboration. They wanted to see the Chesapeake watershed nonprofits be better supported, more coordinated, and raising their collective and united voices with a clear message that we expected clean water and healthy communities across our entire watershed. There have been many iterations of the coalition, and we have navigated many different eras of this restoration effort. And now we find ourselves at this critical moment for our movement, one that can truly be a new era for clean water if we are only bold enough to reach for it. There are a few things that come to mind when I think of a new era, our theme for this year. And short of walking out to a Taylor Swift song, which I would have made some of you guys very excited, I decided on this. Something you might not know about me is I'm the daughter of two Maryland public school teachers. In addition to being a public school teacher, my father is a coach of almost 50 years, basketball and football mainly. So from a young age, I sat behind my dad's bench, watching him move those little magnets around on the board, watching him assessing his team, adjusting and adapting, hearing a lot of curse words, which also explains a lot to many of you. But I eventually took the court and the field myself, and at the expense of being cliche, it taught me a lot about life, and it's something I find myself often going back to when I'm looking for direction. So that's where I went. What does it mean for a team, this team, when we enter a new era? And so there were three things that I thought of. The first is when we need to change the playbook. A team is really only as good as its ability to execute its strategy. And when that strategy, the plays, stop working, it is on the leadership, the coach, to make the adjustments. Sometimes that's simple, a few tweaks here, a few changes there, but sometimes nothing is working. Maybe the team dynamics have shifted, the opponents have learned to outsmart those tried and true plays, but no savvy coach would ever try a defunct play over and over again, expecting a different result. And if the only other option is to continue to underperform, or worse, lose, that coach knows they have no choice but to roll up their sleeves and start the difficult task of opening up the playbook and making those adjustments. We find ourselves here in the Chesapeake needing to make the same adjustments in this new era. We have new research and science telling us that the way we are approaching our restoration work, our plays, are not working quite right. We are not seeing the progress we expected on the ground and in our waterways, and the way that we are tracking our progress, holding ourselves accountable, has serious flaws. So what do? Do we continue to run the same plays, expecting a different result? Or do we roll up our sleeves, open up the playbook, and get to work? If you missed it, more than 160 coalition members, funders, federal, state, agency officials, and other stakeholders were savvy coaches yesterday during our kickoff. as we got to work thinking through the next iteration of this playbook. That work will continue as the coalition begins its advocacy on the future of the restoration effort over the next several months. So first thing, new playbook. Second, when the players change. Each season brings forward a new team and new talent. Veteran players graduate, change teams, or retire, often taking with them years, even decades of experience. Coaches spend years cultivating camaraderie and trust among the players, only have to start a whole new era with new talent. But that's just it. The vacancies, those veterans leave and make space for new players with different skills and specialties. And it fosters new ideas for new plays and even creativity. This is also something I see here in this community. Longtime Chesapeake champions are beginning to take their well-deserved retirement and starting to actually enjoy what they're trying to save and what they've been working so hard to protect. Some have moved on to other opportunities, while others have just left us suddenly and far too soon. We will celebrate several of these incredible people at our reception tonight as we honor Angie Rosser as our 2024 Clean Water Champion. She's hiding over there, I see her. An award for the very first time, the Dr. Beth McGee and Ridge Hall Clean Water Legacy Award to Lisa Alexander. As I said, these leaders are often impossible to replace. Their absence brings gaps in knowledge, capacity, and on a personal level, sadness. But what brings us hope is the new era of champions coming into the movement and moving up through it. I have the honor of witnessing this in real time through our coalition's Young Professionals of Color mentorship program, which you will learn about during our lunch plenary today. And looking out at all of you, I see both our past, our present, and our future. And it brings me so much hope knowing our next era of leaders are out there. So we have our new playbook, and we have the new players. And finally, our last era is when leadership changes. A coach or captain is named, and it can change the entire direction of a team. Why is that? Maybe it's because they bring that new playbook. They recruit the new players and the talent to the team. But there's something else. The coach leadership sets the bar and culture and the expectations for the team. If you joined one of our Back to the Future webinars earlier this year, you heard former senior advisor Jeff Corbin talk about one of his favorite quotes on leadership, and it just happens to be mine as well. And it comes from a sports movie, comes from a football movie. You may have heard of it. It's called Remember the Titans. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend because Denzel Washington is amazing in it. But in the interest of time, and no spoilers, I'm skipping the whole synopsis and getting straight to the point. In one particular heated practice, the captain, Gary, of the team confronts another player, Julius, about his lack of teamwork and commitment. Julius pushes back and says, "Nobody's playing, yourself included. You want me to wear myself out for the team? What team?" Gary responds, "That's the worst attitude I've ever heard." And that's when Julius drops the famous line, "Attitude reflects leadership, Captain." Attitude reflects leadership, Captain. I think about this quote a lot because it's so true. If you have a coach, a leader, a boss who is inclined to accept the bare minimum, who shows no interest in your growth and success, and is willing to lower the bar to claim victory, why would the players do more? Why would the players aim higher? It's hard to find the motivation within yourself to go above and beyond and achieve your goals when your coach isn't even holding you accountable to your true potential. But we're in luck, because I stand here before a sea of leaders here. And I don't just mean the people who had the title director, CEO, even secretary in front of their name. I do mean all of you, because at the sake of being cliche again, all of you lead. You lead projects, you lead people, you lead programs. And I know we are a community of leaders who are unwilling to lower the bar. We hold ourselves and each other accountable to reaching for more, setting inspiring goals. And when we fall short, we pick each other up and we keep going. So there it is. We need three things for this new era: a new playbook, new talent, and bold leadership. The good news is I have no doubt this team is capable of doing all three, being bold leaders who inspire and cultivate new talent with a new playbook for achieving clean water. We have done this for 15 years. We've been successful for 15 years because this coalition and this community is a team, and we will continue to work for the next 15, the next 30, however long it takes, to overcome all of our challenges and to achieve all of our goals. Thank you guys for being here. Very excited for the conference this year. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. So it's now my distinct pleasure to welcome our state lead, Marissa Olszewski from the Maryland League of Conservation Voters. Good morning and welcome to Maryland. Turns out lots of you actually are from Maryland, so thanks for staying home in Maryland. But to all of those who are joining us here in Ellicott City for the first time, I hope that you didn't encounter too much traffic in your travels here, and I do hope that you enjoy this conference. Like Kristen said, this is a really, we're at a critical juncture and a new era, but it is very exciting to look out at a room full of people dedicated to seeing the Chesapeake Bay and its watershed restored for all of the people in this room and for all of the people who are not in this room. I have the honor of introducing our next speaker, who cannot be with us in this room, but has sent his remarks via video feed. So I'm looking to the video guy and getting the nod that yes, we're ready for that. So Governor Moore has an introduction here for us on the screen.
Welcome to the 2024 Choose Clean Water Conference. I'm Governor Wes Moore, and I want to thank you for inviting me to speak. Now, I have met countless Marylanders who are passionate about the need to protect and restore the Chesapeake Bay and all of the rivers and streams that feed into it. Clean water is integral to healthy communities and to local economies and to our quality of life. And our waterways belong to all of us. And it's on all of us to protect them. We are at a critical moment in a decades-long effort to clean up the Chesapeake Bay region, and I'm humbled to serve as the chair of the Chesapeake Bay Executive Council at this significant juncture. We have a lot of work to do to achieve clean water for everyone in the Bay region. But for us to meet our goals, we need to work together. And that's why I'm so appreciative of this conference and to everyone gathered here. And it's my hope that you'll all walk away with new tools and stronger connections so you can continue your important work of fighting for clean water. I'm counting on you. Maryland is counting on you. So, good luck and have a great conference.
And now I get the real pleasure of introducing someone who is in the room with us, here to address us this morning and kick off our conference, Secretary Josh Kurtz. He is our Maryland Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources. And we were so pleased when Secretary Kurtz became Secretary Kurtz last year when Governor Moore appointed him to the role. He had previously been serving as the executive director for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, one of our coalition members. And previous to that, he had been the Policy and Government Relations Director for the Nature Conservancy in Maryland. Secretary Kurtz is a dedicated leader. He is that coach that we need on this team to help drive progress forward. He is committed to ensuring the long-term health and vitality of our waterways and natural resources throughout Maryland and the Bay watershed. In Maryland, in just the year that he has been in office, he has really taken that role as coach and changed over the team at DNR in a way that is really producing great results. And we've seen some of that. One of the roles that he has added, the Resiliency Systems Officer, was something that previously did not exist at DNR. And also another essential role, someone that we know well, the Environmental Justice Officer, previously our own Mariah Davis.
So I'll leave it to Josh to take over from here, but I just wanted to say that we're very pleased to have him serving in the role under Governor Moore as that chair of the Executive Council to provide this leadership to the Bay program and to our restoration movement at this time. Thank you, Secretary Kurtz.
All right, good morning, everybody. Okay, that was terrible. Good morning, everybody. All right, there we go. We need some energy in this movement and in this room today. Thank you all very much for having me today. It's an honor to stand up here and to work with all of you on a daily basis. I see a lot of very familiar faces from the course of my career, and we are, I think the governor said it right, we're at a critical juncture. We're at a juncture where we need to take a hard look at what we're doing, and we're at a juncture where we have incredible new tools, incredible new leaders, incredible new opportunities, and it's on all of us to harness that. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about this agreement, right? We have 40 years of Bay restoration, but I want to talk a little bit about this agreement in particular, how we got here, where we are, and where we're going. And before I do that, I just want to tell you a little bit about how I got here and got into this role. So my career started in field research. I worked on bird research for the University of Delaware for a couple years. And one of the things that I learned, and really what I wanted to do from my career was spend all my time outside, learn about outdoors, learn about nature, and make enough money to survive. That was pretty much it. And then I started to do research, and I started to really learn about, just past what you see in classroom, right, how interconnected everything was. And one of the first studies I got the privilege to work on was a wood thrush study. And we were looking at a migratory species, came up from Central America into the watershed. And the policy difference between here and the countries in Central America as it pertains to leaded and unleaded gasoline. Okay? So there's high levels of mercury that were then picked up by these birds. They flew up here to Maryland, to Delaware, into the region, and they actually released that mercury into the system, right? So we were looking at that from just purely how much mercury, where is it going, what's happening with the macroinvertebrates. But what we were actually talking about was global policy differences and the impact that was happening here and there. And that's really what we're working on in the Bay region. We are a massive scale, right, of working on pollution reduction. And all of it is interconnected. The decisions that are made in New York and West Virginia and Delaware, Virginia, Maryland, everywhere impact each other. We're all interrelated. And I think that was something that drew me kind of out of the field. I also realized that I'm not somebody who can live on a 1,000-acre farm by themselves. I went a little stir crazy. I started harassing subway people who were just doing their jobs to talk to a human being. And so I moved into the policy space because that's really where I think we could drive those interconnections. And that led me to this space today and to be here with all of you. And I'm eternally grateful for the governor. I believe that he's the leader we need now because he is a person who can bring people together, and he can bring people together and have tough conversations in a way where everybody feels uplifted. And I think that's what we need to strive to do. So if you look back at kind of where we are and thinking about the agreement we're under now that was signed in 2009, I think it's also 15 years of the Choose Clean Water Coalition. The infrastructure, the human infrastructure that we've built around the restoration is something that we're just starting to reap the benefits of. And I think that's really important for us to keep in mind. But we've accomplished significant things. Nearly 50 million pounds of nitrogen did not reach the Bay because of the work. 3 million pounds of phosphorus did not enter the Bay because of the work that we've done. And that directly relates to improved habitat, to reduction of the dead zone, the things that we want to achieve. We've done that through a multitude of different things, but the most significant was the easiest. It was not the least expensive, but it was the easiest, and it was upgrading our wastewater treatment plants, right? Go to the end of the pipe, you know what's coming out, you know what's going in, much easier to regulate. And we were successful there. We invested the money across our states, and we made significant progress. And what does that leave? It leaves everything else that's leaky. The nutrients come from different places. You can't really grab it like we can with wastewater and end of pipe. And it's a lot more people-centric. And I think that's really important, right? These are individual decisions. These are individual landowners. These are communities that are just trying to do what's best for the people that they represent, for the people that they lead. And their individual decisions then have that impact on us and have that impact on the rest of the Bay. You know, we've seen growth in our population over this period of time, about 130,000 people per year coming into the watershed. What does that mean? It means more pollution, more hard surfaces, more of the things that we're struggling against. And we're getting a better handle on other things that impact our restoration, right? This is the downer part of my talk, just so everybody knows. Climate change, warmer waters, it's making it a lot more difficult for us to meet the goal, right? And I think what the general public has felt or has heard is that we're moving goal lines. We're not moving goal lines. Those goals were set, but they were set that day and with the understanding that we had. And we need to continuously build the science in so that we can update where we're trying to go and trying to achieve. But it's not an end-all be-all. We're not going to run across the finish line with our hands in the air and then everybody goes home and starts working on something different. This is a commitment that is going to need to persist. This is a partnership. This is a set of relationships that we will only be successful if it continues in perpetuity. And I think that can be a scary thing for people to hear, right? But it's the reality of the situation. Now, that will shift and change as we meet goals, as we restore these spaces, but it's the reality of the situation that we find ourselves in. And I think rooms like this are really important for that, right? This is where that cohesion is built. This is where those relationships are fostered. Resilience is something we're thinking about and discussing a lot. How resilient are our practices? How resilient is the system? And a system is only as resilient as the cohesion is amongst the people, right? Social cohesion is a major indicator for resilience when we think about climate resilience and water resilience. And so rooms like this, incredibly important for fostering that cohesion. The partnership has done some fantastic things, right? Our oyster restoration goals, of the Big Five, the Big 10 tributaries, I apologize to Virginia there, you know, we are meeting and exceeding what we expected to see on the ground there, and that's incredibly exciting. We look at the rise in environmental literacy across the Bay region, and especially here in Maryland, and that's something that, for me personally, and Kristen, my mom is a public school teacher, I come from a family of public school teachers, and I think the strides we've made on environmental literacy and how that is paying off in this room even is critical. How many people went on outdoor, or did something outward bound, had a MeWe? Raise your hand if you spent time outdoors learning about the environment in school. If we asked that question 15 years ago, I bet there would not be nearly as many hands, right? That is a meaningful impact that we're having. And there's additional room for growth. I'm really proud that the governor signed the Outdoor Learning Partnership recently to really continue to grow that partnership, to add a focus on climate, and really to add a focus on equity. You know, we need to get all of our students outside. We need to get all of our students environmentally literate. And that should be a top priority for all of us because it builds that, to Kristen's point, next generation of leaders and the next generation of leaders, right? It creates a sustainable source of people who care and who are going to work very, very hard to achieve the goals that we're all here to achieve. I think one thing that's tough when we get towards the end of a goal or a deadline and we haven't met the goal is keeping from being apathetic, keeping from feeling like we didn't do it, we failed, from pointing fingers. The hardest time to be optimistic is when things aren't going well and to be positive, right? And that's where we need to lean back into the relationships we have and the successes that we know are working and build for the future. So let's talk a little bit about where we are now, right? The partnership, where we're getting to the 2025 deadline, we have not met some of the goals that we need to meet to have a restored bay. We have a good handle on why. We have a good handle on where these practices need to go by and large. But what we don't have is an optimized strategy to achieve it. And I think Kristen touched on that in her remarks. You know, the governor says to us a lot, you know, we are asset rich, but we're strategy poor. And I think now is the time for us to really lean into better strategy. The science that we have been working and developing, and a huge kudos to our academic partners, to the Science Technical Advisory Committee. You know, we have a much better handle on kind of the marrying of the monitoring and the modeling. That's not something we've had a great handle on. And now we can really look at a watershed and say, we expect with the practices we put in place that our nutrient level should be X, but they're not, right? And we can marry monitoring and modeling and get better information about what practices and what changes we need to make. And I think that's incredibly exciting. The comprehensive evaluation of system response, the CSER report, these are foundational pieces of science that are really critical for us to be able to evaluate what we're missing. And I think when you look at the CSER report, what are the things that it tells us? We need to focus on living resources. Why is that? Well, because that's the outcome we're actually striving to achieve with our nutrient reductions, right? That's the thing that people can hold on to. That's the change they see in the world that they want to be a part of. And that looks different across our watershed. And I actually think that's a strength of the partnership. If you're in New York, you might care about algal blooms. If you're in the Eastern Shore, you might care about the impact of the commercial fishery. If you are in West Virginia, you might care about greater access to fly fishing, right? But all of those things connect back to what we're trying to achieve here, right? We need to paint that picture for people unlike you all who live and breathe and eat and sleep this, so that they can see how they fit in and they can see the benefit in their everyday lives. The other piece of this, and I think is one of the hardest things to get our arms around, is climate change, right? The need to mitigate the impacts of climate change benefits the work that we're doing. I think one of the other successes over the course of our restoration effort has been the impact of emissions reduction, as the impact of sulfur dioxide and some of the air pollutants, nitrous oxide, that we're also then depositing into the bay, right? We've seen benefit from these other programs, and we need to, as state decision makers, think about that interrelation. And I think that's something that the governor has done with the hiring of my colleague Megan Conklin, who's our Chief Sustainability Officer, which is a really exciting role for us. And what Megan is doing is looking across our climate programs, our ag cost share programs, our DNR restoration programs, and making sure they have an additive effect, a multiplicative effect. We need to do that at the Bay program level. Understand the policies, the programs that are in place in each state, and create that opportunity for the states to build on them and for EPA to support them. I think we have, some very ambitious goals, but they should be ambitious, because what we're trying to do is something that hasn't been accomplished at the scale that we're working on here in the Bay region, and I think speaks directly to the broader concerns around climate change. Climate is all about dispersed sources, just like where we are with non-point source solution, and that's going to take an all of society response, just like we've been working to accomplish here in the Bay region. The other component to this too is, we've been very focused on the deep trench, right? Because of the cycling of nutrients that happens there, because of, the science tells us if we can get the deep trench in a better space, it's gonna stop pushing more of these nutrients back up and spreading them across the watershed. Very focused there, and our ultimate goals need to have that context in mind. But we really need to also think about what's going on in our local watersheds, our creeks, our streams. I've heard Mark Hoffman at Chesapeake Bay Commission testify in front of the legislature for a while. And Mark always says, every Marylander lives within 10-minute walk of a body of water. It is crazy to me that there are not more people in this room knowing that, right? That is on all of us to connect those people, to make them feel safe, to let them know that that water is safe when it is. And I think that what we're seeing is that recognition in many of the states. You look at the work that Pennsylvania is doing on stream delisting. You look at what's going on in Virginia in terms of their algal bloom reduction. There are specific components to clean water that people really resonate with and appreciate. And I think us further learning from each other and leaning into that is going to be important. So let's turn our attention to what's next, right? Right now, the governor is the executive council chair, and I have the privilege of being the principal staff committee chair. So We do a lot of work, and then we roll up to the Executive Council. Below that is the Management Board. They do way more work than the PSC. It rolls up. Below that is the GITS. We've got working groups. We've got task force. Who wants to join us, right? And that's fantastic, and at the same time creates a bit of a management challenge. I only have a finite number of staff, and frankly, we have more than most other states. I'm not saying that to brag, but it's a reality. We have several staff that can participate in these spaces, and not every state does. And so how are we creating the space for assistance for our state governments, for our local governments to participate more fully? One of those spaces that I think we have an incredible opportunity is our advisory committees. We have local government, we have the Citizens Advisory Committee, we have Science and Technical Advisory Committee, we have an Ag Advisory Committee in the works. We need to think about how those committees are really helping be the grassroots arm of the Bay program, of helping bring people in and help us think about and build solutions. We have to also really, I think, take a hard look at what's working, what's not working, and understand where there's areas where we can maybe combine metrics, where we can identify more fine-scale data that can help us understand the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. We've had a data revolution in the past decade, right? We can count trees, right? Joel, we can count trees, right? We can count trees, right? We couldn't do that before. We were looking at massive pieces of data, right? That were very coarse. So we can get fine scale now. We can get fine scale not just with trees, but with segments of streams, with wetlands, right? We better understand the world in which we sit, which means we need to tailor the solutions to that reality. And I think that is going to be something we're excited about here in Maryland. And one of the things that I'm really thrilled about is the passage of the whole Watershed Act this year by the legislature. I want to thank our I want to thank our partners there because they, like us, read the Caesar report and they decided we need to try to figure this out now. And so we put in a bill, we work closely with them, and we're ecstatic. I know a bunch of my colleagues from DNR are here. We've had several meetings. It's not law yet, so we're have to wait a little bit. But we're already looking to build out the team and to implement that. And I think the beauty of this is it leans right into the science. It leans right into the networks that we've built. And it says we're going to identify areas, we're going to target solutions, and we're going to target those solutions based off how those pieces work together. No more random acts of conservation. I'm sure you all have heard that term. We need to make sure that when the Ag BMP goes in on the farm, that our living shoreline and our wetlands restoration, all of those things fit together, and that our permitting regime at MDE also reflects that, right? We can build on each other and think about these things not as individual agencies and individual projects and individual programs. Everything interrelates, and that's how we're successful. We've got incredible opportunities, I think, to reimagine our urban centers. You look at what the district has done with their stormwater work. We're seeing green infrastructure going in places we never were before. And I think one of the things that I love about that space is how fine scale we can tune and tweak outcomes for communities. So I had the privilege of working on a program or a project in Hyattsville when I was at the Nature Conservancy. We were putting in stormwater with the Anacostia Watershed Society, a stormwater of BMPs. And we had a lot of resistance from the community there in the church that we were trying to work with because they didn't want to lose parking spaces. So we were having a conversation about how we could structure this, and we were on site, and we realized that they have aftercare at the school. And that aftercare and this church sit at an intersection of two busy roads, and the roads kind of go like this, and people were cutting through the aftercare parking lot during rush hour traffic at a high rate of speed to try to avoid a light. And one of the engineers offhand made a comment, we could use speed bumps to divert the stormwater into that green infrastructure. Immediate change in how they saw that project. It went from, we're like helping you guys and maybe we'll get some credit, to this is gonna solve a problem that is outside the bounds of what we were thinking when we thought about green infrastructure. That's a transformative opportunity for all of us, right? Now you have somebody who is sitting there going, oh, this is like kind of a hindrance, this is an add-on. Now it's an integral part of how this organization operates and how this community fits together. And I thought that's the level of detail that we're trying to bring to our thinking around implementation and around programs and strategies. And I will say, I think the biggest piece of the future is one that's hard to quantify, and it is partnership. We have, and you see this in Caesar, we've got time lags, we've got gaps. We're getting better handle on how to understand that. But I think part of the reason that we should feel optimistic and that we should, and everyone in this room should, feel empowered to hold all your leaders accountable, to ensure that we are driving and striving for the best possible outcomes, that we're keeping our foot on the gas, that we're making changes to our programs, we're making changes to our regulatory frameworks, is because we have the network, we have the partnerships inside of government, outside of government, all around us that are going to allow us to be more successful. We are spending ample amounts of federal, local, and state dollars, and ample amounts of philanthropic dollars in this space. Who here thinks that we're doing a great job of connecting all that money? Yep, I agree. I didn't raise my hand either. But I think that's where we have a significant opportunity too, is to work better in partnership. A lot of you represent organizations that are doing implementation work every day, that are doing the work of collecting the data. We don't do a great job of that in Maryland. I think you look at New York, their ability to lean into citizen science and having gotten the approvals of the federal government to incorporate that in the Bay program, that's foundational stuff. That's fundamentally changing how they're driving outcomes and how we understand our problems. At DNR, we think a lot about our water quality network. Well, a lot of you have water quality monitors that don't interrelate with our system, right? That is an immediate area for change and immediate opportunity for us to better understand our water, our watershed, our streams and our creeks, so that we can make better management decisions. And we need to share that data with all of you. And so that is an area of focus for us right now, is ensuring that we are being transparent with what we see on the ground, and we're really trying to lean into helping and working together with not only all of the partners in this room, but our local governments and our partners across the Bay region. I think when I really kind of step back and I think about where we are, it's frustrating. I've done this work for a long time. I wanted us to be further along. I'm sure a lot of you feel that, right? But what we need to do is turn that frustration into bringing people into the fight with us. We don't have enough people, in my opinion, that are pushing for clean water in the region. We do not have enough people, not because it's not important, because I don't think they understand how they can be involved. And that's partly on us as state leaders to make sure people understand how to participate. But it's also on all of us, right? I mean, environmental literacy plays a role in that, but every one of you has social media, right? Every one of you has the ability to inspire one more person. And if you can do one thing, and I know that this isn't the whole-scale change that we're gonna make when we think about the future and we think about policy regimes and we think about funding change, but we need to bring more people into the work. There are too many communities that have not been engaged. There are too many communities that can feel a direct benefit very soon. And we need to focus on that. And I think what excites me about the future is, again, this partnership. The partnerships we've created, the bonds that have been created over the course of the 40 years, and especially this agreement. And I think now it's time for us, because we have these strong relationships, to take a long, hard look in the mirror, follow the data, and ensure that we are working within an agreement that is going to get us to success long term, and that is something that we are all going to stay committed to for way longer than I am on this earth. And so I'm thrilled that you're all here today. I know you're going to do a lot of hard work in our breakout sessions. There's going to be a lot of information that's going to inform people like me, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you very much for the work that you all are doing on a daily basis. I'm always inspired when I come to places like this to keep doing the work and go into budget hearings. So thank you very much, and yeah, I will turn it over to Kristen now. So.
Thank you, Secretary Kurtz, for your remarks. We're really so glad you could join this morning and be back among old friends. Your leadership is so needed, and we look forward to continued partnership in our work for clean water. My name's Drew Robinson. I manage communications for the Choose Clean Water Coalition, and we're so thrilled you're here. To echo Kristen's comments, welcome. The conference really is a highlight for us as a coalition staff, and we hope it is for you as well. And what a critical time it is for us to convene. Decisions made now on the future of clean water restoration efforts in the Bay region will have tremendous ripple effects for years, even decades to come. Definitely had to throw a water pun in there, see if you caught it. While there's plenty of uncertainty, one thing we can say for sure, to reach our clean water goals, we need to work together. And as a coalition, partnership and collaboration is in our blood. And over the next 2 days, I hope you all can make new connections and connect with old friends as well. But before I go any further, I want to pause and thank our conference sponsors. We say this every year, but it really is true. This conference would not be possible without our conference sponsors. Yeah, they deserve a round of applause. So I'm not gonna list off every single one, but I am gonna run through some of our most generous sponsors. Our Patapsco sponsor, the Campbell Foundation, our Chop Tank sponsors, Ducks Unlimited, Maryland League of Conservation Voters Education Fund, the National Wildlife Federation, and the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields National Historic Trust. And our Potomac sponsors, the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, Chesapeake Conservancy, Foundation for Pennsylvania Watershed, Heavy Seas Beer, we'll be enjoying that tonight at our reception. National Parks Conservation Association, Piedmont Environmental Council, and Shore Rivers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We really do appreciate your support. Another group I want to thank is the Conference Planning Committee. Starting back last summer, this group put many hours into helping plan every aspect of this conference, and teamwork really does make the dream work. So a lot of the great things we have planned is due to their creativity, their connections, and their passion. So who are this mysterious people? You can see them from their conference flair. Hope everyone has their flair on. But I'd also invite all our planning committee members to stand up so we can all give you all a round of applause. We appreciate your support. I have one other individual to thank, and she didn't get too mad at me last year when I did this, so I'm going to do it again. Thank you to Amy Schofield, our conference manager. I don't know if I'm going to do it next year. I might get in trouble. But I can unequivocally say we could not do this conference without her, so thank you, Amy. And some final housekeeping notes. Yesterday at our conference kickoff, I felt like I had to speak at the end of an infomercial, speak so fast because I was holding everybody back from drinks. But today I can go on for a while. So our first round of breakout sessions and workshops will begin. Conference planning, we need to, we'll fix that in a minute. I hope that's not a bad omen. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, thank you, Chris. So our first round of breakout sessions and workshops begin at 10 a.m., 15 minutes from now. We offer 2 rounds of breakout sessions, 10 to 10:45 and 11 to 11:45. And our 3 workshops will run from 10 to 11:45. Also, just want to pause and thank our presenters. We had a record number of proposals submitted to present at the conference this year. Going back to Kristen's comments earlier about having lots of leaders, we certainly have a great group of leaders in this room, just reflected on how many people are sharing their talents and their wisdom and their expertise in our sessions, workshops, and field trips. Speaking of field trips, don't forget those this afternoon. If you have any question about your field trip or need to cancel or change your participation in any trip, check us out at the registration desk. We'll get you situated. Going back to our sponsors, be sure to check out our sponsor exhibit tables located right outside these doors. Any questions, check out the QR code on all these tables. There's a link tree. You can get all the information you need. For any nursing mothers, happy belated Mother's Day. You all are amazing. And if you need a nursing mother space, please see Amy. And last but not least, please check out our silent auction. There are many amazing outdoors packages. You can bid on a kayak package, a canoe package, tents, camping chairs, lots of great gear for your next adventure. Someone asked me yesterday, where are the canoes and kayaks? It's a good question. Well, the winning bids for that will have it shipped to their homes. So how about that for service? You can get it in the ground floor. We're still looking for bids for all of our great packages. And bidding is open till 12:15 on Wednesday, tomorrow. We'll announce all the winners. So that's all I have for you. You all are dismissed, and I hope you have a great conference.